everybody, and welcome to another Misfit Artists Drawcast.
Yeah.
I am Ace.
Yeah, and I'm Mecca.
And oh my gosh, we are here in the flesh, in person.
Well, we are. They still don't see shit. Yes, we are. This is actually a very interesting one because it's the first time in a while that a Drawcast has correlated with a short film production thing. Because it's not really a film, it's an audio story. But bottom line is that by the time this is up, there should be a video called Shadowbrook Hunters, Episode 1, which is going to be following Claire and her mentor, Richter. And it has both our amazing accents going on in it. But it's very much it's supposed to be a very easy-going, it's relatively easy-going compared to like a normal animated film. You can have it on in the background and just have a good time, or if you play it, you get to see this marvelous beast whose hand I am currently drawing.
Oh my gosh, what is this marvelous
beast? It is, so what we technically are calling it a bone fairy, but it is based off of tooth fairies and other generic fae, primarily from Irish and Scottish folklore. They're very different, actually, Scottish and Irish, but for the interest of us making a semi-original creature, we take a good hodgepodge. But like I said, it's based off of the classic fairies and fae, so you get like your leprechauns and everything. But this one is based off of what eventually became what we call what we, especially in America, I think it's kind of a worldwide thing, but the tooth fairy.
Yeah, although in some countries, like, their version of a tooth fairy is mice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't find that.
I did a quick little skim over the internet, like what were types of tooth fairies around the world, and in some countries it's mice.
That's so crazy. So I want to follow up on that one in a bit, because one of the other cool things we're trying to do, because we do want to be making art professionally and independently if possible, but as a way to make our endeavors more worth it to all of you lovely viewers out there, we are releasing this character here as a digital trading card on our Patreon, and also eventually we want to make it an actual series, trading card series that will go along Shadowbrook Hunters and our other short films, which will have little fun facts on the back, again, relating to whether it's what they do in movie literature or the actual folklore creatures. So this one, we did a little bit of research on the different tooth fairy traditions, or what, sometimes it's just the what's cool about it, and sometimes it gets into the why did this become a thing that is a cultural phenomena. Yeah. So yeah, I think I have some stuff that I looked up, because I did the illustration here and I did the brunt of the writing for Shadowbrook Hunters. But I am really interested in, is there any more tidbits you can give us about the mice thing, or? No,
that was just now before we just hit record.
Oh, you just found that now? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you find anything else?
Or at least I remember something about it from watching a movie where they kind of introduced it, and then I was like, oh, okay, I need to look this up to make sure that this is true.
Yeah. Because, I mean, again, like, this is one of the things where everything that we say, I'm sure that someone will be able to say, no, that's definitely not it, or, oh, you're missing this part. Because, again, everyone knows the Tooth Fairy. It's just like Halloween. Like, there's all, like, we all grew up hearing, like, Halloween is actually for this. The only one that can be, like, really disproven, I think, is just that Halloween is the night you worship the devil. That's the only one that I think everyone can agree is total BS, because there's so many more significant parts of it. Yes. So, but even then, again, there are just going to be people that will completely disagree with what you have to say. So that's kind of our social disclaimer of, we're not trying to, be weird about this or, steal from anything, but it's something that we grew up hearing about, and we're trying to keep some of these fun stories going and create our own original product from it. But yeah, you did a lot more research for the podcast, I think, than I did. So what Is there anything else that you think is really interesting about the bone fairy, tooth fairy to share, or maybe even something weird like from your own childhood? Do you have anything like that?
Um, not really, because I remember doing a whole lot more research beforehand, way before we started, recording this.
Yeah, doing we've had this drawing for a while.
For a while.
The recording has taken a while because of other planning, getting ready for school and everything. But
and all that.
Well, then I guess I can go ahead and share some of the stuff I found because, again, like little tidbits. I encourage everyone to look these things up yourself.
Although,
very sorry.
The inspiration for the Bone Fairy for us was when we had the list of different monsters and cryptids. I came across this stupid internet meme where it said tooth fairies are the subset of the much larger, scarier bone fairies.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I better write that down.
Yeah. And I haven't actually seen that. I'm sure. So I believe that's more of like a entertainment movie thing. But I mean, everything is based off something, so I'm sure there's something there. But I mean, as far as movies go, and which is where I'm much more knowledgeable than actual folklore, but as far as movies go, tooth fairies are one of those things that people just constantly want to make scary. Mainly because it's something that, again, we all have this childhood memory of.
We have this childhood memory of, like, it's so dainty and pretty.
Yeah.
And all
like,
that.
We all just assume it's this nice, pretty lady in a tutu.
We all just assume it's just very feminine.
Yeah.
Ballerina type.
Yeah.
Kind
before
of thing.
Before we figure out that, like, fairies and fae are actually sometimes very mischievous little dickbags, so...
And metal as hell.
Metal as heck, definitely. But so I think that, again, that's where I think that why it's a popular thing in pop culture is just solely because it's something we're aware of. It's something we know. Even if we don't know everything about it, everyone has that image, and it's something to subvert. And just making something small like that scary, I think, is also a very powerful thing. One of the images we looked at, which you might be able to see in the illustration itself, but I found the Hellboy image in what's the director? I love the director. He was the producer for Scary Stories Still in the Dark. Oh no,
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. Fudge. I was gonna lose some points there, but the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy films had a very fun, classical, like, I don't think I'd necessarily say original. I mean, they put their spin on it, but it was a very classic, just, like, that weird alien head shape, like, human anatomy for the torso, but then throwing some other limbs out of proportion and everything. But so that's what a lot of Our Tooth Bone Fairy is inspired by, was those illustrations, and we did some really interesting thumbnails, too, because that's how the design process should always go, but... That's where the big part came for us, because we also found some that were, again, the very humanoid, attractive woman that just had, like, bone armor on her, were some bone fairies you could find, which are very cool. But I think if you're doing, like, a demon hunting supernatural show, I think it's great to embrace the inhuman things.
The inhuman.
Yeah.
Just the more darker side of
exactly.
things.
Unless the point of the monster is to make you feel uncomfortable by sexual attraction. Like a succubus, make that lady attractive, but make her really weird in other ways. And because that's a whole other kind of horror. It's just like mermaids. An attractive mermaid is scary because it's affecting two feelings at once. And when you have those two feelings going at the same time, you're like, oh man, puberty all over again. But back to the Bone Fairy. Again, it's always like, if I can make something small scary, like it's not a hulking monster that's going to be running around wrecking all your stuff up. It's a creature that...
If it's small, you gotta make it more goblin-like or even more terrifying than it is.
Or you get into, again, what makes fairies and fae scary in Irish folklore is their deal-making, the mystical side of them. When they open their gosh darn mouths. Which I don't think is necessarily a thing in like the classical tooth fairy, bone fairy stuff. They're just like little demon hellspawn that like... it scares you the way like a parasite scares you. But again, we took inspiration from other fays and fairies in general of making wishes that are like horribly corrupt.
Yes. Like the
Leprechauns are very famous for it.
I was gonna say the monkey's paw story.
Monkey paw. If you watch any version of the genie or djinn aside from Aladdin, literally any other genie story will involve the genie. You wish for all the riches in the world, and you like get crushed by a gold chest or something.
Oh.
So the story has a lot of that in it. But for bone fairies and tooth fairies specifically, it comes from, just like most things, a lot of different inspirations and traditions. I came across one that said Vikings, when they go to battle and if they have a child,
they carry their
their children's baby teeth with them for good luck.
That was pretty cool.
It's very cool and very oddly metal. But it's kind of similar but also very different from the other very different version I heard was when your child loses a teeth. I think it's also either an Irish or Scotland one, but it was just like a really weird thing overall. When a child's tooth fell out, it was the parent's responsibility to dispose of it or to safeguard it, because if they didn't, a fairy, spirit, or witch could use that to possess the child. Which and then that gets into the whole like, if a spirit is at unrest, you burn the bones, which is just a very crazy thing to think about. But again, it's that the idea that it's a physical connection to whoever has lost the teeth, and if you believe in magic like that, that physical artifact is a very powerful thing. And especially when we were, as a species, much younger and figuring stuff out, who wanted to take that risk?
Right.
So that was a crazy thing there. I don't think the idea, unless like this whole subset of bone fairy is another bigger rabbit hole that we can dive down, which if it is, maybe we'll make a bone fairy 2.0. Because I would love to find more just different, like the leg bone fairy or the finger bone fairy. I would rock that all day long. Can you imagine? But just like most things, these are traditions and folklore that just got kind of weirdly misconstrued. Later on, some of it I think was in colonial times, or what's the word for the people that did the witch trials? Puritan. When they were just trying to like peacefully get some pagan stuff normalized, but also be kind of like, get that out of here though.
Yeah. Which is pretty much the very nature of folk tales and folklore.
At least for like American ones, yeah. Like if you again, Irish and Scottish especially, or I think mainly the Irish folklore, Viking folklore and stuff like that. It's so weird because it's hard to track down where a lot of the stuff originally came from, because they didn't write it down very often. It was told solely through these bunch of badass warrior men sitting around a campfire saying, "Did you ever hear about that red-eyed dog that, eats only feet?" And, Milgore, the other Viking, is like, "Oh, Milgore. That's pretty messed up. I'm going to tell my children to stay out of the woods because they ain't getting their feet torn off." And then eventually, like, you get some weird version of that over to America, and then we're trying to, like, make sense of it or whatever it is we do. It's a beautiful, beautiful train wreck.
That's kind of what creepypasta is, to some extent.
Yes, it's the next layer of all that.
All of that.
Except it's now in a time where like, back then the popular opinion was that the shiz was real. Yeah. Now the popular opinion is fading to, it's probably not real, but you still have a little bit of that feeling like for me.
Maybe
I'm still not going to mess with possessions. You ever tell me to mess with the Ouija board, I'm slapping you in the face and locking you out of my apartment.
Ooh.
But again, that's like one of the interesting things is that now that that's kind of the unpopular opinion, people work harder to make it feel kind of realistic. Like the best Slenderman stories to me aren't like, oh, you find the Slender Mansion and he has the daughter, like all this crazy lore, like
gather all stuff. The 8 pages.
But it's the idea like marble hornets, these kids that claim to have seen a mysterious figure, but just went oddly insane. There's no fire-breathing dragons or anything there. It's so creepily realistic. And I think that's where modern horror thrives. If the goal is to scare, again, if you want to do like a dark fantasy and you just want to make something that's like unsettling but also like obviously a made up adventure, then yeah, get that haunted Slender Mansion shit and go nuts, because it's still cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's not the scariest form of Slenderman. So now creepypasta artists are taking elements of things like a bone fairy or especially stranger dangers, like the most creepily real thing they can get their hands on. Definitely. And they are repurposing it into a new way where a lot of it has the element of isolation, because that way the less you can prove or disprove something in a creepypasta makes it more effective, Yeah. So, like, if someone's talking about, like, if, for instance, a creepypasta story that could have a bone fairy would be like, oh, I was 15 years old and for some reason my last baby tooth came out. It's a weird genetic problem I had. And, things like, it fell out, though, when my parents were out of town. You just keep adding layers of obscurity to it, so you can't track down where it would be. You can't find the other witnesses, because in theory there's no other witnesses. It's just this one guy person who you have to believe or disbelieve, and it's just this one fundamental truth or untruth, whatever you think. And again, I think that's what makes modern horror really great, and that's why we're playing with this audio adventures thing for Shadowbrook Hunters, because it also kind of goes in with books are scary because, like, you get to come up with your own imagination of it. And it even though we didn't play it up like found footage, that's kind of the goal. Yes. Like, we're not saying, like, oh, these are Richter's journal recordings or whatever. Because then we had a hard time rationalizing how we could do other sounds or voices in it. But that's definitely... It's pseudo found footage kind of thing.
Yeah. Kind of gets a feel for it.
Yeah. Where if you're young or if you're getting lost in the headspace, you can kind of start to rationalize that. Again, if you want to be, I think it will be most scary if you want to be scared by it, which is how most horror kind of works out. At least that's what the best horror is. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, it is. I think it's a very
scary
fun...
stories are supposed to be fun.
Yeah, I think what we come up with is a very fun thing in general. Here's the good old classic what blend mode will work the best for this character. Because this illustration we're making here is going to be going on a trading card, in theory this month, that you could get on our Patreon for not too much. So it's definitely something where I didn't go quickly and try to make a cartoon rig of it. This is me trying to make a very solid. I'd want to carry this around in my wallet, or put it in my book collection, or even go on to Redbubble, because as well as being on a trading card, the trading card will have a special design that you can only get that way, but we also put it on Redbubble, so if you want to get a print of this character and put it on your wall, I would hope this would be really cool, because we do know a lot of fairy enthusiasts from like roleplay stuff, and I hope this makes them proud. I really hope this makes Hypnos proud. Can you imagine this being part of Hypnos' army?
I can see it.
Hypnos would be like, you're going a little too far here, buddy.
I can see it, and that will scare me.
But yeah,
I love this dramatic shading.
Thank you so much. I always get worried when I spend more than an hour on a drawing, because I'm just, again, normally I draw cartoons, and the idea is just a strong pose or animating like 15 drawings.
But this
is something very different.
This detail, though.
Thank you.
It
just worries me so much, because I feel like it's like I'm at the point now where I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but I still don't think it's like where my strongest strength is. I think my strongest strength is still.
But I think it's going better than before.
Thank you.
Like, just seeing the general improvement of it is really cool.
Thank you. I'm very, very thankful to hear that.
You're kind of using some of my techniques when I shade too.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh, I am definitely. I mean, that's what art is. I think. And again, it's just like folklore is a weird conglomeration of a bunch of stuff. Most artists are a weird conglomeration of other people they respect or they want to emphasize. And you and I are very, very different as in our styles overall.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still things that you do where I'm like, great idea. I'm gonna do that shiz. Yeah, so that's it there. I hope you all enjoyed it. Is there anything else you want to leave off for the tail end of this?
Keep your teeth healthy, friends.
Keep your teeth healthy, friends. Brush your teeth.
Brush your teeth. Take care of yourselves.
For the Bone Fairy.
For serious though.
For serious though. Stay safe. Stay happy and healthy, and stay scared, kids. So, bye-bye.
Bye.